especially this time of year when all the sports are in season, to make it to each coach to tell them, hey, this is what's going on. So that report is there for them to see at any time and for any athletes that may be injured.
This is Joe Martin, Executive Director, Texas High School Coaches Association. Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. Before we get started, a few updates regarding the spring of 2025. Just reminding you that our 25-26 THSCA membership is available to you on our website. And encourage you to sign up as soon as possible, and don't forget your liability insurance as you do that. Also, coaching school tuition is available on our website currently, and you can go to into the portal. You can go to our website and be able to sign up and get your tuition to coaching school, which will be in San Antonio. The Hall of Honor is July the 19th, and coaching school runs July 20 through 22, with a regional meeting being on July the 21st on that Monday, and our general meeting the 22nd. And just reminding you that those two meetings are not the same, and we encourage you to attend both of those meetings, along with the 250 to 270 hours of professional development. We look forward to seeing you at coaching school. The sooner you sign up, the cheaper it is. And providing that you have membership going into coaching school, you'll be set and ready to go coming out of coaching school for the new school year 25-26. As you know, the 89th legislative session started in January. A lot of updates on our website, a lot of things that potentially can impact you, us, all of our coaches and athletics across the state of Texas. So stay tuned to our website. We will be involving updates through Sports U and sending legislative updates as we need you as this session grows beyond vouchers and the UIL bills that are out there. We will be fighting for you in our profession, and we need your help. So stay tuned. When we can get information to you, please respond as soon as possible. Have a great day. This is going to be a great podcast.
Hey coaches, did you know we're now offering shows for all sports? That's right, whether it's basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, we've got you covered. If you're looking for a way to showcase your program, promote your players, and highlight the amazing things happening with your team, our coaches' shows are the perfect solution. Plus, our business model lets you or your booster club raise money while building excitement and support for your program. Don't miss the opportunity to take your team's story to the next level. Find out how you can get your very own coaches' show. Reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620 today. That's 713-269-4620, because every team deserves a spotlight. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Coach's Call. I'm Chris Doelle, and once again, I'm joined by the one and only Libby Pacheco. Libby, how are you today?
Thanks, Chris, for having us. I'm doing great. We are just off of a bunch of our spring events and getting ready full steam for coaching school. So I'm excited to have our guests on today.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to hand the mic over to you and let you do the introductions, and we'll connect at the end. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, as all of you guys know, as listeners, this is Athletic Training Appreciation Month. And so I have with us one of our best athletic trainers in the state. He's also part of our advisory committee, our newly formed athletic advisory committee. I've got Chad Hennessey from Georgetown and the athletic director, the coordinator for Georgetown High School, Chuck Griffin. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Libby. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Well, before we get started, Coach Hennessey, I'm going to start with you. First of all, how do your players address you? Are you coach? Are you doc? Or what do they call you in your?
I am literally just one letter. They call me H. So yeah, sometimes Mr. H, but mostly it's just H.
Just
So,
H. All right. I'm going to call you H then.
okay, sounds good.
We'll go from there. So before we get started, that feels weird to me, right? To just call you H, but I'm gonna go with it. H, tell us. Tell me a little bit about your background and how did you end up in the athletic training world?
Yeah, so I used to play sports in high school. My junior year, I decided I wasn't going to be able to play sports, so I just didn't think I was going to be good enough to play in college. So our athletic trainer at the time at the high school was Red Gaines, and so he kind of said, "You can join the program," and I did, and then he helped me get into college at Abilene Christian. I was there for 4 years, and then from there, I was able to get a graduate position at the University of Miami. And from there, worked in the NFL for a couple of years, and then landed in Georgetown after Hurricane Katrina, and have been here ever since. And all that is thanks to Red for kind of guiding me in the right path. I love sports, so it was kind of an easy thing for me to transition into getting to watch sports all the time, and then helping kids get better as well.
What a great reminder of how all the different paths that athletics provides for our athletes and for our kids and our students, that it doesn't necessarily just have to be on the field or on the court, that there's a way to get so many different kids and students involved in the athletic program,
Right.
and what it can lead to. So, Coach
Mhm.
Griffin, what about you? Do you mind sharing a little bit about just quick your background and how you ended
Sure.
up as the head coach at Georgetown?
Sure. I was the same as Chad, grew up playing sports, and man, I could tell you right where I was. And at Woodham High School in Pensacola, Florida, when Coach Bradley kind of changed my life, he said something, and man, it changed who I was and what I was about. And I tried to run from coaching for a little while. I was determined to get a business degree and make money, but man, God just kept opening the right doors and putting me in the right spot. And the next thing you know, I'm working at Hardin-Simmons University with Jimmy Keeling, and that was 25 years ago, and I've been in Texas ever since, and worked for Craig Yinzer in Midland, and Tim Anaskavich up in Borger, and Phil Blue and Jason Dean here in Georgetown. So I've been in Georgetown. This is my 6 year as the head coach, but 12 years overall. I worked for the previous two head coaches as their offense coordinator.
Awesome. Great paths, great people and mentors that y'all surrounded yourselves with, and really a great program right now. Good thing you guys have going on in Georgetown ISD, then specifically Georgetown High School. So again, appreciate both of y'all. So we're just going to dive into the reason we're talking is just that relationship between a head coach or any coaches and their athletic trainer. I think a lot of times there's some misunderstandings and some misconceptions about the role of both. And some programs do it right, and some struggle with that relationship. So, our goal here is to kind of give some tips to those who might be struggling, and then also to encourage those that seem to get it right to make sure that they stay on the right path. So, starting right out, H, this is your question first. From your experience, what do you think makes a great working relationship between that coach and athletic trainer?
I think for us, and what's always worked for us is kind of an open and honest communication. We respect each other. We respect each other's role in the it benefits the team and how it can make the team better. But it's really just open and honest communication. If there's something that comes up and Coach Griffin sees something that maybe he's seen previously in another stop or maybe he just has a suggestion, he always comes tells me. And then by the same token, if I see something that, hey, maybe this isn't a good thing, or maybe we could try something different. If we have this kid that's injured and maybe he can do this part of the drill and not, then he's always very, very receptive to my suggestions. So I think it's really just communication. And that's where it starts. And we, with all the technology today, we can communicate obviously in person. Our offices are not very far apart. I'm on the field with him. But then there's also text and phone calls and everything else where we can stay in constant communication. And that way we're on the same page, and that bodes well for the athletes, the parents, the other coaches. So they know that we're on the same page whenever we go into something.
Coach Griffin, anything you want to add to that?
you're going to hear that word a lot, communication. I think that's the key piece in what we do. And then I think, as Chad said, it's just a trust factor, right? Trusting each other to do their job and to do it well. And knowing that, man, he's earned the spot he's in, and Chad's done a tremendous job and continues to do that. So, man, I trust him. I was kind of discussing this with my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, I think he's our family doctor. Anybody in the family just calls H if they got something going on." So, he deserves a great deal of trust. And we're thankful for that. And I think he's right. The communication piece, make sure we know what kids are out and where they are, and that's a huge piece of what we do.
Let's talk about that communication then, because I think it is a really important piece. And I know obviously you guys have a great relationship, and that's why I've asked y'all to be on this podcast. So whenever I ask y'all for suggestions or thoughts, obviously you're not talking about each other, but and you've heard, you've seen where things don't go well with the head coaches and athletic trainers. So what do you feel are some of the common communication breakdowns that happen between coaches and trainers, and then how would y'all suggest those be avoided? Coach Griffin, we'll start with you.
I think probably the biggest one is there's a kind of an old school mentality in football, in that, man, we want everybody working hard, and we do. We want everybody to work hard, and but when we see guys that are out for some reason, I trust that they're out because they've seen Chad and or seen H, and I'm the same way. Like, if there's somebody that I know, hey, I don't know anything about this kid, the injury report, I'm going to shoot him a text real quick, or I'll walk over and talk to him. But I think that's the differences, or where the issues come in, is when there's not that communication. H does a great job keeping an injury report that I have access to on my telephone right away. He emails it to us once a week. So we have access to that. So I can look up any kid I have that I see and see if they're on the injury report or not. So I think that's the biggest mistake, is just that lack of communication and making decisions rash of not knowing what's going on behind the scenes.
H, I'm going to ask you kind of a follow-up question with that. So other than that report, like tell me about that report. Who sees it? Who do you send it out to? Who's in charge of putting information in there?
Yeah, so we have an injury report that goes to all of our coaches here at the high school. So Vanessa Rideau, my coworker, and myself, we have divided up the sports, and so we fill out our different parts of the injury report, and all coaches have access to it all the time. It's a living document on Google. So as soon as we update it, the coaches should be able to see exactly what it is. Every once in a while, we'll send them reminders, like once a week, hey, check your injury report, just so they kind of get that refresher. But it's hard whenever it's just the two of us, and we have, especially this time of year when all the sports are in season, to make it to each coach to tell them, hey, this is what's going on. So that report is there for them to see at any time, and for any athletes that may be injured. And if it's something that's significant or may require a significant amount of time away, then we make it a point to go talk to that head coach and let them know, hey, this is what happened. Whether it's a in school sport, or maybe they were hurt in club sport, or maybe they were just goofing off at home and went to the lake and did something. Like, we kind of make sure that we're on the same page, and so they understand that we're not just putting them in the report, and that they know kind of the background of why they're there.
That's a really good tool, especially if everybody knows the expectation ahead of time going into the school year, that's the best way to communicate. So, H, this question's for you. What have you found are the best ways for coaches to communicate with athletic trainers when there is an injury concern, without kind of overstepping, without creating some type of a division?
Yeah, I think it's been really good here, with us, and I think it's, partly because of the communication, like we talk about all the time. I don't think we have any coaches that are adversarially mad at us or whatever, but they come in and they'll ask us questions, and we openly communicate with them about what we think is going on with the athlete, and whether it's in person, on text, phone call, we're open, to them most times of the day and night. So We'll get back to them as soon as we can if we miss their call or miss their text. But, a lot of it is just, if they trust us, which I think they do here at Georgetown, they'll be like, hey, so-and-so's hurt. What do you think? And then we kind of give them what we think and what we, kind of short-term goals and long-term goals, how long we expect them to be out, what they can do in the practices that are coming up that day or the next day. Even if it's an off season, maybe they have a lower body injury and they can't do squats that day, but, we have machines that we can still let them do, that the coaches have purchased over the years. So they're still getting a workout in. And I think that's important for them to be with their teammates and to be with the coaches that are seeing them still put the work in around whatever that injury is. So as long as they see that and they trust that we're not just holding them out for any reason, I think that they trust us to come to us with whatever injury may come up.
I know I always appreciated our athletic trainers whenever they worked to get them out of the athletic training room.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't want them to hang out there. They wanted them to be with their teammates. I think that's a really good point, knowing that it's not a goal for an athletic trainers to let them hang out there all day, for the entire practice.
We have a practice group of football, and I call it encouraging wellness. They would much rather be at practice than work with me on the side. My workout tends to be a little bit more difficult. So they get better, not only just with the treatments we're doing, but with the workouts we're making them do on the side. So it works out really good. So
Chad does a great job from the standpoint of our kids aren't allowed to be in the weight room. I'm sorry, not allowed to be in the training room during the athletic period. Like if they're going to go to the athletic, they're going to go to the training room. They've got to do that before school and make sure that they get on the list so that he can communicate with the coaches. And then they're in the athletic period, whether they're, it might be a guy that's on crutches and his job is just cheer on his teammates while they go through off season. Right. But they're going to find something to do. And he does a great job coming up with a plan with our coaches and sharing that so that those kids are not standing around and using that of, hey, I'm going to hang out in the training room during athletic period. He does a great job, make sure our kids get out and get to work.
Yeah, I like that policy. It helps enforce the role of that kid, helps that kid want to get back. And that sometimes you see kids that are out for long injuries and then they just lose that camaraderie with their teammates. They lose that trust from their teammates. But there's some give and take with that, correct? I would imagine, or there's a lot of sacrifice, I would imagine, on your staff's part to make sure that happens. Probably giving up some of your lunch periods and being there available before and after. So that's what a great tool for you guys to have there at Georgetown to be able to have that policy in place. Chad, this question's for you. What are some of those strategies that athletic trainers wish that coaches would implement more to prevent injury?
Yeah, so a lot of what we wish they would do is, just again, it goes back to talking to them about whatever specific sport that is. If it's basketball, then, we're trying to prevent ankle injuries, which happens a lot in basketball. So maybe we're trying to get their team to wear ankle braces, and some coaches are very receptive to that. And some coaches are kind of hesitant to do that. So it's just about, if it's the heat policy, it's kind of like, do we have to implement this? Yes. And then, we kind of work around that, or concussion policy when that came out, a decade ago or so. It's just whatever we can do to try to help the athletes stay on the field. And we can show the coach why this would be a meaningful step to help their athletes stay on the field and out of the training room or out of being injured. Then I think, most coaches are pretty receptive to that idea, whatever it may be.
Coach Griffin, this is your question. Sometimes there can be some ethical considerations that you have to think about whenever you're dealing with an athlete and an injury and how quickly they need to return to play. An athletic the kid can sometimes get caught in the middle of what a coach thinks is best and what an athletic trainer thinks is best. So what's your advice for handling those situations when there is a disagreement or when there is something going on between the head coach and the athletic trainer?
Well, we're gonna err on the side of H, and I trust him to make those decisions. He knows that we want to win, and the kid wants to be out on the field, and his parents might want him. Like, he does a great job understanding all of those things. But at the same time, we want the health of the kid to be the most important. I tell kids all the time, like, man, this is a short-lived cycle. So we want you on the field to be part of it, but also there's nothing permanent for this, right? So when it comes to from the ethical consideration, like if we don't think they're ready to play, then they're not going to play. We're just not going to do that. So I think that you always have to err on the side of caution when it comes to that, and making sure that the kid's going to be able to play for the long term, right, and not the short term.
Anything you want to add to that disagreement piece?
Yeah, I think, like, I wouldn't say we've ever had disagreements, but there's been like, hey, what about this? What about that? And I think we just listen to the other person. Like, they do a really awesome job of listening whenever I'm trying to explain why they can't play. And I think I try to do a pretty good job of listening when they say, can they do this? Like, what if they can do this? And part of it is too, like, what point of the season are we in? Is it the first of the season, middle of the season, end of the season? Kind of where you're at in the season, and a lot of that kind of helps to kind of, do we need to try to get this kid back, or can we hold off for one more week? Would that be better? Are there limitations to them playing? And if, like you said, if there's something that's going to make them worse or get them hurt, then it's not worth it to put them out there at this point.
Both of you guys have used the word trust a lot, that there's a lot of trust that has to be developed between the head coach or the coaches and the athletic training staff. H, do you mind talking to us about exactly what kind of training do athletic trainers have to receive before they end up on a campus? I don't think a lot of coaches understand the level of training that you have to receive just to get into the room, and then what you have to do to maintain that.
Right. And it's not just a weekend course. I can definitely say that. So, I'm a little bit older. So when I came through college, it was an internship program. And so we had to take 4 years of undergrad, and then you had to sit for a licensing test in Texas. And then you can sit for your national board of certification. Nowadays, you have to go through college. You have to get at least a master's degree in athletic training, sports medicine, and then still take the national certification test or the state licensure test if you're just going to work in Texas. So it's a lengthy process. A lot of us that were a little bit older still went and got our master's degree, which I did. But now it's a requirement that you get at least a master's degree. So it does take quite a bit of schooling just to get in the door. A lot of them are also teacher certified. So they go through that process of being a certified classroom teacher. They're licensed in the state of Texas. They're certified for the national board. So it's and then we have to do CEUs, 50 CEUs, continuing education every 2 years. So it's an ongoing process. It's a hard process to get there, just to get your first job, and then to keep it with all the continuing education you have to do every 2 years. Obviously keeps you up to date on anything that's out there. So it's not just a fly by, you can't just hire anyone. You got to hire some good ones. So everybody that goes through the school is pretty good. So
our relationship with athletic trainers has really grown, especially over the last year, with our relationship with Dell Children's. And working with them and our athletic training advisory committee, we just, even in our office, have really kind of had a new appreciation for all the training and all the education that athletic trainers have to maintain throughout their career just to be able to keep your certification.
Right.
Working really hard to make sure that's gets easier for y'all, or more accessible for you. So we're excited about that relationship and watching that grow as well.
Right.
And the work, honestly, Chad, that you've had a lot to do with that committee and with guiding us as an association. So we appreciate that work for sure. So let's talk about some just best practices. And Coach Griffin, I think there's sometimes that athletes get nervous trying to report an injury to a coach. Are there things that you do, any specific strategies or things that you're intentional about in making sure that athletes feel comfortable reporting injuries, and maybe modeling that for the other coaches on your staff?
Sure. I think the first thing we do is H and Vanessa are two of them. They get introduced at our parent meeting right off the bat. We do an 8th grade parent meeting, incoming freshmen. It's district wide. So it's all our income from both our middle schools, all our incoming 8th grade athletes. And H and Vanessa both are going to have to take part in that meeting and speaking to the parents and the kids. So we try to stress the importance of that relationship and start beginning to build that trust. The worst thing can happen a lot of times is for somebody to go to the pediatrician or to the emergency room when, hey, all they had to do was come into the trainer. He would have said, nah, you don't need to, like, you're good. It's a jammed finger, it's not broken. Or if he realized, hey, it's something important, let's get you into the orthopedic. So I think establishing that again in our parent meeting that we have in the fall from a football standpoint, H addresses our parents again and our kids, and then it's all of our kids come before school to do that. So our best players are in there because they realize that, hey, I need to roll out, or I need to warm up my back, or I need to do this before I get in the athletic period. So our younger kids see that modeled by our best players, that the training room is an active place to work. It's an active place to go get ready to be on the field. And it's something that it's a tool that I can use to help me stay on the field at a greater capacity. So I think it's modeling that with our older players and making sure our parents understand that when it's open, what they do, and that they do have our full support and from our coaching staff.
H, what would you say, especially for younger athletic trainers who are just finding themselves in that role for the first time? Either some of them, because there is a shortage, just like there's a shortage of teachers and coaches, there's a big shortage of athletic trainers right now. So sometimes athletic trainers in their first year might find themselves as the only athletic trainer on a staff or in a district, and then the head athletic trainer right off the bat. So what advice would you give to those athletic trainers as far as their role in setting that expectation for player safety and recovery?
Yeah, especially if you're by yourself, it's a little bit better when you start having 2, 3, some schools, bigger schools have 4. You can spread out the responsibilities. When you're by yourself, you literally have all of the responsibility. And I think that, a big part of that is making sure that your coaches understand there's only one of you. And you can only go so many places at one time. So, that's a big thing. Establishing emergency protocols and communicating those and getting those to all your coaches for all the different venues you have is a good first step. That way your coaches understand if there's something that goes on, they know what steps to follow in case of an injury. All the coaches in the state are first aid CPR certified, so they can provide that first initial care if you're spread out to 2 or 3 different venues on the same night. So that's a good first step to take. And the other thing is, learn to work with your coaches. Don't just come in and say this my way or the highway. Like the school has been open longer than you've been there. So understand what protocols they may already have in place and try to see how you can fit into those protocols and how you can maybe help those protocols get better. Not every athletic trainer works the same, and not every coach works the same. So when a coach comes in for their program, they may see what that program has done before, and we're going to take 10 things from what they did, and we're going to add these 2 things that I like to do. And I think young athletic trainers can really learn a lot from seeing what was already in place and then trying to implement some of their stuff over time. You can't just change everything right away, but learn how they've been doing things and say, well, I have an idea on how to make this better. And then the coaches buy into it, and it makes everybody's life a little bit easier.
Good stuff. So, H, we're going to stay with you for this next question. What do you think are some things that you wish that all high school coaches knew about athletic trainers? Things that you just don't think that coaches think about when it comes to athletic trainers?
Yeah, I think I keep saying this, but I'm kind of blessed that I work at a place where we've all bought in. I've been here long enough, and the coaches have been here long. We've been pretty fortunate to have a lot of the same head coaches for a lot of years. So it's been a pretty good thing for us. But for some coaches, we're here to help, and we're not here to hold your kids out. We're not here to intentionally try to sabotage a season or sit your best players out. Like, if we have somebody sitting out, there's a reason for it, and it's our job to be able to communicate that effectively and show why it's best for that athlete not to be playing at that time. So I think our goals at the end of the day are all the same. We want the kids to succeed. We want them to thrive. We all want the same thing, but sometimes just different ways of getting there. The coaches want to see them on the field, coaches want to see them practicing, and we know, or we think that maybe that's not the best thing for them at the time. So it's just about communicating, building that trust with them. And a lot of it's just going to take some time. You don't just come in right day one and trust me, respect me. You got to earn the trust. You got to earn the respect. And the longer that I've worked here, and the longer I've worked with the coaches that have been here for a long time, I think that's only helped build that relationship that we have with them.
Coach Griffin, are there any messages that you try to deliver to staff members, especially if the new staff members, specific to athletic trainers, about how they need to deal with it, maybe things that they need to know?
Again, the thing we keep hitting on is communication and trust piece, that our coaches that come in understand Chad, Vanessa's role here, how long they've been here, where they work, like they're a professional. Wanting our coaches to understand that when they come in, and then just make sure we communicate back and forth. Are you looking at your injury report? Do you know who's injured on your team? Do you know where they are in their recovery? Are they limited in the weight room and upper body only, but can do lower body, or whatever the case may be? I think that's the biggest piece is the trust and then the communication and making sure that we're on top of things. So I think just from my standpoint, they're included in all our head coaches meetings. When we have head coaches meetings, our athletic trainers are in those head coaches meetings. And usually they have some sort of part in there about what's coming up or something that's going on, whether it's cold weather policy or whether it's hot weather policy or whether it's, hey, we're going to be hosting the state soccer tournament, so we're going to be busy for 4 days and out of the pocket. So what is that going to look like for your practice schedule? So I think those are important things that we have to get communicated across our board.
I think one of the things that I always try to do as a coach, especially with all of our staff, is constantly remind them that, hey, our athletic trainers don't have an off season. They're always in season, and to be mindful of what we add to our schedule and any changes we make to our practice schedule to make sure that that's communicated to athletic trainers. Because I think sometimes coaches work in silos, right? They see just their own program and they only see how things impact them and their wins and losses. And so just being able to be aware that there's our athletic training staff is taking care of everybody. And even the small little details and treating an athletic trainer as part of your team and as part of your staff can be huge for athletic trainers, for parents to communicate, hey, we're all in this together. Even small things, like I would always put our athletic training staff on our playoff t-shirts. Sometimes you put rosters on there. We would try to give our athletic trainers gear, buy them stuff, buy them volleyball stuff, just so they felt like they were part of our team as well. And then the kids would see that. And the athletic trainers were able to support every team throughout their season. And I think those are little things that sometimes coaches don't think about doing, but it's small things that can have huge dividends for everybody on your campus.
I think one thing to add to that is great athletic training programs are going to have a great student athletic training program. And H and Vanessa do that. We've got a ton of girls that go out and they're working. And I remind our players all the time, hey, if you're on the field at 6:30, those girls were here at 5:30. If you're getting off the field at 7:00 at night, those girls are going home at 8:00 at night. And so we really stress that. And I think that plays into H and Vanessa because we talk to our players about how to treat those young ladies that are out there. And we have an occasional young man that comes out there too, but we're going to treat those like they're just as big a part of the team as you. And you're going to treat them with respect and dignity. And that follows suit because they see that in the students. They're going to do the same thing with H and Vanessa.
H, anything else to add to that piece about how to foster that relationship a little bit more?
No, I totally agree. As long as we're all collaborating together and working towards the same goals, I think it definitely helps everybody.
Last question as we kind of wrap all this up. And H, I'm going to start with you with this. How do you see that the coach athletic trainer relationship possibly evolving, or what are some trends you're seeing happening with the athletic training world?
Yeah, I think it's just going to continue to improve, with the new safety guidelines coming out. We had the hot weather policy, we had the concussion thing, many years ago, and being able to adapt to those were conversations that all had to be had by my group. And I think as it goes on and those become normalized, which the concussion law has become pretty much normalized. Once the heat policy becomes normalized and coaches figure out how to work around it with their athletic trainers or just on their own without, maybe they only have an athletic trainer that comes to their varsity football game on Friday night or visit their school twice a week. I think that relationship will be a lot better because we're having those difficult conversations right now. I think that the education that they're having to have in these programs now, getting their master's degree, is definitely going to help them have the knowledge. And I think the only thing that you'll need coming out of school is going to be how to work and collaborate with your coaches, and don't just work in the bubble of just the training room. It's always good to get out and understand where the coaches are coming from and understand, that they're trying to work with you too. And as long as that relationship is there, I think it's going to be great moving forward.
Griffin, anything else you want to add about that? Anything you see evolving or trends?
Well, I think it's just going to keep growing, and that's kind of the way our world works right now. There's so much information, right? And so I think the biggest thing between coach and athletic trainer in the future is that information, like gathering it and then making it applicable to what we do and how it works, and making sure that we're on the same page. We've had great examples of the cold weather policy, the hot weather policy, and the concussion so long ago. Like, that's not even a thing anymore. We just know, hey, the kid's got a concussion. Hey, just tell me when he can come back. Like, you're right. There's not even a question. And I think as things continue, this information that we're gathering, whether that's GPS information, we're looking at load during the week and how much they're gonna work, and incorporating them in our strength training programs. I think that's the future and where this thing is going. So the more information we can gather, the more information we can use to put the best product out on the field.
What we see coming through our office and a lot of the communications we have, especially again with smaller districts, rural districts, we see the need for them. They may not be able to hire a full-time athletic trainer. So we see a lot more use of contract athletic trainers going through using health systems like Dell Children's to make sure that all of their sports are covered. And that, I think, poses its own challenges, because you guys have talked about the trust and that communication. Well, what happens if that person isn't actually a part of your staff? How do you build that communication and that trust? And I think those are things that are going to have to continue to evolve, and we're going to have to continue to have those conversations as more and more school districts are having to turn to those contract employees. But I appreciate you guys so much. There's so many coaches out there that really need this information and maybe need to at least pause and think about it. You guys do a great job at Georgetown. And so again, busy spring. Thanks for taking time with us. Chris, it's all you.
Cool. Gotcha. I can't tell you how cool this was. My degree is actually exercise physiology. So, this is a subject that I love, because when I played, the head coach had smelling salts. That was pretty much it. And he would say, don't drink too much water, you'll get waterlogged. So I love it.
Things have evolved a little bit since then.
Yeah, that's just saying I'm old, right? Thank you so much, Libby, and thank you, Coach Griffin. Thank you, H, for everything. This is wonderful stuff. We are so blessed in Texas, again, in this area, to be ahead, just like we're ahead in everything else, it seems like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all having us today.
Thank you very much.
Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You do it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Doelle, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call. The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com.